Live from the BDN Studios, it's Bang and Dang.
That's awesome.
If you don't like that, then
You ain't black.
Welcome back to Battles of American Civil War, with your host Bang and Dang. And it's officially official this episode. Unlike last episode where we were going to do this battle, but ended up a little long, so we'll do it here. We'll do it now. We'll do it live. Live for us. Right. This one's going to officially end 1862 and into 1863. We're talking about the Second Battle of Murfreesboro up in Tennessee, Middle Tennessee, that is. Ran from December 31st to January 2nd. Moving in 1863, like I said, it was the culmination of the Stones River Campaign, it's also called the Battle of Stones River. After the Battle of Perryville, which we just did a couple weeks ago, so go look that one up, October 8th, Confederate General Braxton Bragg's Army of Mississippi withdrew to Harrodsburg, which is in Kentucky, where it was joined by Major General Edmund Kirby Smith's army of 10,000 on October 10th. Although Bragg's newly combined force was up to 38,000 veterans. Veteran. How do you say it? Veteran. No, I can't even say it. It was up to 38,000 veteran troops. Veteran? He made no effort to regain. He made no effort to regain the initiative. On the other side, Don Carlos Buell did the same, and he said, "I will be equally passive and refuse to attack Bragg."
Both Halleck
how many times these
Lee have to be pissed?
You know how many times these armies could have been taken out? Like literally, these guys are like, "Yeah."
So I think most of this war is like political. This is like the first political freaking war there was.
We got to keep it going,
right? We can't end it this fast.
I don't know. Lincoln was getting some fucking mega heat from losing all the battles and shit. So
it's true. It's true. Frustrated with his prospects in Kentucky and low on supplies, General Bragg withdrew fully from Kentucky through the Cumberland Gap, passed through Knoxville and Chattanooga, turned northwest, and he eventually stopped in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. His army joined with Smith's army in Kentucky and together renamed the Army of Tennessee as of November 20th, 1862. They took up a defensive position northwest of the city along the West Fork of the Stones River. During a visit by Confederate President Jefferson Davis on the 16th of December, worst day in history, Bragg was ordered to send the infantry division of Major General Carter Stevenson to Mississippi to assist in the defense of Vicksburg. Should have.
All right. Loss of Stevenson's 7,500 men would be sorely felt in the coming battle. Bragg reorganized his army, and Kirby Smith left for East Tennessee. Bragg commanded two corps under Major General William Hardee, which were divisions of Major Generals John Breckinridge, Patrick Claiborne, John McCown, and then Major General Leonidas Polk had divisions of Major General Benjamin Cheatham and Jones Withers, and a cavalry that was commanded under Brigadier General Joseph Wheeler.
We don't hear too much of this guy.
Bragg had to deal with a command problem that became typical for him during the war, a virtual revolt of his senior generals who petitioned Jefferson Davis to relieve him in favor of Joseph Johnston.
Well, Johnston was the smarter of the two.
But he was the commander of all armies in the Western Theater. So
right. That's why.
Why would they want to do that?
Jefferson Davis was like, nah, I need him over there, bud. You continue to be worthless over here.
Well, this is the Western Theater. So he's already commanding the army over here.
Johnston is, yeah. But not Bragg.
Yeah, but Bragg's commanding this army of the Tennessee.
Yeah.
So why would they want Johnston? He's already commanding everything. Apparently.
Well, President Davis refused to relieve Bragg or the rebellious generals. On the Union side, President Lincoln had become frustrated with Buell's passivity and replaced him with Major General William Rosecrans, victor of the recent battles of Iuka and Corinth.
Iuka?
Iuka. Rosecrans moved his 9th Corps, or his 14th Corps, which was soon after designated the Army of the Cumberland, to Nashville, and was warned by Washington that he, too, would be replaced if he did not move aggressively against Bragg and occupy
Good. About time somebody said something to these guys.
The only reason why you're here, bud, is just to go.
You're literally here to fucking...
However, Rosecrans was like, you know what? I need to reorganize this army and train these forces how I like it. Particularly this cavalry unit, because I don't like the way they're doing business.
Right.
And we need to resupply this army. He did not begin his march in pursuit of Bragg until the 26th of December. I mean, that's understandable. But as long from there on out, he has
better. You guys, you got your shit ready. You better fucking attack now.
Right.
Well, while Rosecrans was preparing to Nashville, Bragg ordered Colonel John Hunt Morgan to move north with his cavalry and operate along Rosecrans' lines of communications.
Oh.
And he wanted to prevent him from foraging for supplies north of Nashville.
Okay.
Battle of Hartsville, which we just did, at a crossing point on the Cumberland River about 40 miles upstream from Nashville, north of Murfreesboro, was an incident in Morgan's raid to the north before Rosecrans had the bulk of his infantry forces on the move.
Okay.
The relatively small battle that followed Morgan's surprise attack was an embarrassing Union defeat, resulting in many captured Union supplies and soldiers.
I don't understand. They were never on guard, like ever. They're like, yeah, there's always Confederate forces within 50 miles of us, but we don't care.
All right. And it's a surprise.
Where's your gun, soldier? What? I don't know.
Are we supposed to have one?
Do I need it? Wait, should I carry extra bullets? Stupid. The Union also engaged in a strategic cavalry raid on December 26th, the day Rosecrans marched from Nashville. A small force under Brigadier General Samuel Carter raided the Upper Tennessee Valley from Manchester, Kentucky. Until January 5th, Carter's men destroyed railroad bridges and fought a few skirmishes, including a serious one on the 28th of December at Perkins Mill, also known as Elk Fort. But none of the cavalry raids, Confederate or Union, had any significant effect on the Stones River campaign. The Army of the Cumberland marched southeast the day after Christmas in 3 columns, or wings, if you want to call it that, towards Murfreesboro. And they were effectively harassed by Wheeler's Confederate cavalry along the way, which delayed their movements, obviously. It's harassing. They just call them names and stuff.
Like, you idiots.
Look at the way you marching. You even march like Yankees.
Those uniforms are terrible.
Look at you.
Would your mom sew them?
Look at you with your brand new boots and rations.
Although Rosecrans had reported his army to have 81,729 effectives in Nashville, his force on the march was barely more than half of that.
Still 40,000.
Since he needed to protect his base and supply lines from the harassment of the Confederate cavalry. The left wing of 14,500 men under Major General Thomas Crittenden, which had divisions of Brigadier Generals Thomas Wood, John Palmer, Horatio Van Cleve, took a route that was parallel to the Nashville and Chattanooga Railroad, passed through Laverne and south of Smyrna.
Okay.
Georgia or Tennessee? It's Smyrna, Tennessee.
Yeah.
The right wing of 16,000 men under Major General Alexander McCook, which had divisions of Brigadier Generals Jefferson C. Davis, Richard W. Johnson, and Philip Sheridan, marched along south of the Nolensville Turnpike to Nolensville, south to Triune, and then eastward to Murfreesboro. Said, we'll all meet up at Murfreesboro, boys.
Right. The center wing of this Union army, 13,500 men under Brigadier General George Henry Thomas, had divisions of Major General Lavelle Rousseau and Brigadier Generals James Negley, Speed S. Fry, Speedy S. Fry, and Robert B. Mitchell. They moved south along the Wilson Turnpike and the Franklin Turnpike, parallel to the Nashville and Decatur River. Decatur Railroad. Then they moved eastward through Nolensville and along the same route used by Crittenden south of the Nashville and Chattanooga. Union cavalry under Brigadier General David Stanley, he had a single cavalry division under Colonel Kennett, proceeded east of the 3 columns, which makes sense. The separation of the wings was designed to conduct a turning.
Each of the 3 columns.
Right. The separation of the wings was designed to conduct a turning movement against Hardee at Truen. But when the United States march began, Bragg moved Hardee back to Murfreesboro to avoid a confrontation. He was like, come back.
You're going to have a confrontation at Murfreesboro, so
Right.
I guess it's better because you got all your men there.
Mm-hmm.
Murfreesboro was a small town in Stones River Valley, a former state capital named for a colonel in the American Revolutionary War, Hardee Murphy.
No shit.
All through the war, it was a center for strong Confederate sentiment, and Bragg and his men were warmly welcomed and entertained during the month of December.
Wonder where they get Burrow from. Burrow. Yeah, Burrow.
It's a town surrounded by walls or forts. That's what a borough is.
Okay.
It's also Berg or Berry. So Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Waterbury.
All right. Okay. Greensboro. Okay.
Right.
Right. I get it.
All right.
Okay.
Vicksburg.
Pittsburgh. Fredericksburg.
Right.
Petersburg.
All that good stuff. Well, you learn something new every day, don't you?
Mm.
Yeah, they were well entertained during the month of December. Everybody loved them in Murfreesboro.
Right.
It was located in a rich agricultural region from which Bragg planned to provision his army and a position that he intended to use to block a potential Union advance on Chattanooga.
Oh.
Hardee noted afterward that the field of battle offered no particular advantages for the defense.
Uh-oh.
Despite this, Bragg was reluctant to move farther south, say to the arguably more defensible Duck River Valley, or farther north to Stewart's Creek, where Rosecrans thought Bragg would defend.
Right. He was like, there's no way they're going to go to Murfreesboro
He's like,
again.
Yeah, Confederates won that one.
Okay.
So they should already know that they can defend it and know what to do. So
That's why Morgan or Bragg was like, we're good.
Stay here.
Sensitive to political requirements that almost no Tennessee ground be yielded to federal control, he chose a relatively flat area northwest of the politically influential city, straddling the Stones River. Portions of the area, particularly near the intersection of Nashville Pike and the Nashville and Chattanooga Railroad, were characterized by small but dense cedar forests and places more impenetrable to infantry than the wilderness of Spotsylvania in Virginia. Short limestone outcroppings separated by narrow cracks as if rows of teeth impeded the movement of wagons and artillery.
Oh, I bet.
Hardee's Corps...
wagon wheels getting broken probably all the time.
Likely, yeah. Hardee's Corps was initially placed in Trioun, about 20 miles to the west. Polk's army on the west bank of the river and a detached division from Hardee's Corps under Major General John Breckinridge on the low hills east of the river. None of the troops were ordered to construct field fortifications. They're like, do we need to set up it? No, bud.
By the time Rosecrans had arrived in Murfreesboro on the evening of December 29th, the Army of Tennessee had been encamped in the area for a month. By nightfall, 2/3 of Rosecrans' army was in position along the Nashville Turnpike, and by the next day, Rosecrans' army numbered about 41,000 to Bragg's 35,000.
That's all right.
The odds were closer than those figures would indicate, though.
Okay.
Bragg had the advantage of the detached but cooperating cavalry commands under Forrest and Morgan.
Right. It helps that the cavalry's cooperating.
Right. And they raided deeply behind Union lines while Wheeler's cavalry slowed the Union forces with hit-and-run skirmishes.
All right, that's the best part.
All right, part of Rosecrans' reluctance to move from Nashville was the inexperience of his cavalry forces in comparison to their Confederate counterparts.
Right. All right.
He's like, even though I spent a week trying to get these guys ready, I don't think so.
Enough.
On December 29th, Wheeler and 2,500 of his men rode completely around the Union Army, destroying supply wagons and capturing reserve ammunition in Rosecrans' trains. They captured 4 wagon trains and 1,000 Union prisoners.
Are you serious?
Jeez.
It's ridiculous. December 30th. The Union force moved into line 2 miles northwest of Murfreesboro. The two armies were in parallel lines about 4 miles long, oriented from southwest to northeast. That's ridiculous.
Dude.
That's crazy. Bragg's left flank was weak at the start. Rosecrans could have attacked there when he arrived and wheeled left, around the flank and directly into the town of Murfreesboro. But he did not know the full disposition of Bragg's forces because of the skillful screening of the Confederate cavalry during the Union march. Hey, I guess.
Right, they didn't let him see.
Right. In a manner similar to the previous year's first battle of Bull Run, both commanders devised similar plans for the following day. Envelop the enemy's right, get into his rear, and cut him off from his base. Since both plans were the same, the victory would probably go to the side that was able to attack Foist.
Right.
Rosecrans ordered his men to be ready to attack after breakfast, but Bragg ordered an attack at dawn.
He said, boys, you ain't eating breakfast this morning.
He's like, breakfast?
Or you better get up at 2 o'clock in the morning.
All right, dude, we can eat afterwards.
Well, some of us.
Right. There'll be more to go around afterwards, guys.
Right. You get a larger portion after the battle, trust me. Bragg's forces were situated with Polk's Corps on the west side of the river and Hardee's men on the east. He had expected Rosecrans to attack on December 30th, but when that didn't happen, his plan was to drive Hardee's Corps and the cavalry under Brigadier General John Wharton deep into the Union rear.
Okay.
He began moving the bulk of Hardee's Corps across the river to his left flank to prepare for the next morning's attack. This left Breckinridge's division in reserve on the east side of the river on the high ground.
Okay, fantastic. Rosecrans intended to have Crittenden cross the river and attack the heights east of the river, which would be an excellent artillery platform to bombard the entire Confederate lines. Yes, it would be. However, Crittenden, facing Breckinridge on the Union left, failed to notify McCook, which was on the Union right, of these troop movements. McCook, anticipating the next day would begin with a major attack by Crittenden, planted numerous campfires in his area, hoping to deceive the Confederates as to his strength on that flank, and to disguise the fact that his flank was not anchored on an obstacle, which was the nearby Overall Creek.
Oh, why wouldn't you do that? Thomas, who was in the center, was ordered to make a limited attack and act as a pivot for the Crittenden's wheel.
Right.
For Crittenden's wheel.
Right.
The armies camped only 700 yards from each other, and
That's
their band
crazy.
started a musical battle that became a non-lethal preview of the next day's events. Didn't they do that in the other battle?
Yeah, they did.
Northern musicians played Yankee Doodle and Hail Columbia and were answered by Dixie and the Bonnie Blue Flag.
Obviously.
Finally, one band started playing Home Sweet Home, and the others on both sides joined in. So like,
Nice. Look at that shit.
thousands of Northern and Southern soldiers sang the sentimental song together across the line.
See, they didn't want to kill each other.
What does that sound like?
Sweet home, mid pleasures, and though we may roam, be it ever so humble. There's no place like home, you know. A charm from the sky seems to hollow us there. Sweet home there.
This sounds like like one of those role playing games, like
There's no place like home.
Zelda.
Right. Yeah. Oh, RPG games back in the day.
What is it? Home Sweet Home.
Yeah.
Seems to hollow us there, which seek through the world is ne'er met with elsewhere. Home, home, sweet, sweet home. There's no place like home. There's no place like
Just imagine 78,000 people fucking singing that in unison, dude.
Crazy.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, but they sang together. Home Sweet Home. Good for them.
Fantastic. Major General William Rosecrans' Army of Cumberland fielded approximately 43,000 men and included 3 infantry army corps, named right wing, center, and left wing, obviously. The right wing, under Major General Alexander McCook, consisted of divisions, 1st Division, Brigadier General Jefferson C. Davis, his brigades of Colonel Sidney Post, William Carlin, and William Woodruff. 2nd Division, Brigadier General Richard W. Johnson, had brigades August Willich, Edward Kirk, and Philemon P. Baldwin. He was a colonel. The other guys were brigadier generals. 3rd Division Brigadier General had Philip Sheridan leading his brigades. Brigadier General Joshua Sill, Colonel Frederick Schaefer, and Colonel George W. Roberts. The center wing, under Major General George H. Thomas, consisted of 1st Division MG.
Major
General Lavelle Rousseau, with brigades of Colonel Benjamin Schreibner, Colonel John Beatty, and Colonel John C. Starkweather, and Lieutenant Oliver Shepard. Look at the lieutenant guy coming in there, huh?
Lieutenant Colonel.
Right. Well, Lieutenant Colonel. 2nd Division, Brigadier General James Nagley. He had brigades of Brigadier General James Spears, Colonel Timothy Stanley, and Colonel John F. Miller. That 3rd Division of the center wing is Brigadier General Speed S. Fry. He had he had brigades of Colonel Moses Walker. That was it.
That's it for him, huh?
Moving on to the left wing, under Major General Thomas Crittenden, consisted of divisions. 1st Division, Brigadier General Thomas J. Wood. He had brigades of Brigadier General Milo Haskell, Colonel George Wagner, Colonel Charles Harker. 2nd Division's Brigadier General John Palmer. He had brigades of Brigadier General Charles Cruft, Colonel William Hazen, and Colonel William Gross. Going on to the 3rd Division of the left wing, Brigadier General Horatio Van Cleve. He had brigades of Colonel Samuel Beatty, Colonel James Fife, and Colonel Samuel Price. Your cavalry corps, under Brigadier General David S. Stanley, included 1 cavalry division under Colonel John Kennett, and the brigades of Colonel Robert H. G. Minty and Colonel Louis Zahm.
All right, then. Well, I can assure you that the competitors are not going to be that long.
Right.
General Braxton Bragg's Army of Tennessee fielded approximately 35,000 men and included 2 infantry army corps. 1st Corps, under Lieutenant General Leonidas Polk, consisted of the divisions of Chetham's Division. Major General Benjamin Chetham, obviously, had brigades of Brigadier General Daniel Donaldson, Brigadier General Alexander Stewart, Brigadier General George Maney, and Colonel Alfred Vaughn, Jr. Withers Division, commanded by Withers, had the brigades of Colonel John Loomis, Brigadier General James Chalmers, Brigadier General J. Patton Anderson, and Colonel Arthur Manigault. Second Corps under Lieutenant General, is it Lieutenant General?
Yeah.
William J. Hardy consisted of the divisions of Breckinridge Division, obviously led by Breckinridge himself, had the brigades of Brigadier General Daniel Adams, Colonel Joseph Palmer, Brigadier General William Preston, Brigadier General Roger Hanson, and Brigadier General John Jackson.
Nice.
Claiborne's division, managed by Claiborne, had brigades of Brigadier General Lucius Polk, Brigadier General St. John Liddell, Brigadier General Bushrod Johnson, and Brigadier General Sterling Wood. McCown's division, obviously we know who runs that one, has brigades of Brigadier General Matthew Ector, Brigadier General James Rains, Brigadier General Evander McNair, and Brigadier General Sterling M. A.M. Wood. What? Why is he in two things?
That's not fair.
What the hell's going on there? If I never have to say Brigadier General again in this episode, I will be fucking all right.
Right.
Well, the Cavalry Corps, managed by Brigadier General Joseph Wheeler, consisted of brigades under Wheeler, Brigadier General Abraham Buford, Brigadier General John Pegram, and Brigadier General John Wharton.
Okay.
Whew. All right, you guys get all that?
Fantastic. It is New Year's Eve, the beginning of New Year's Eve. It is dawn of December 31st, about 6 a.m. Confederate William J. Hardy struck first, attacking the Union's right flank with the division of Major General John P. McCown. Before many in Union Brigadier Generals Richard Johnston's division had finished their breakfast.
Damn.
This was the third major battle after Fort Donelson and Shiloh, in which an early morning attack caught an army by surprise, a Union army by surprise. 10,000 Confederates were massed on their left, attacked in one massive wave.
Jeez.
McCook's deceptive campfires and the relative inexperience of McCown caused his division to drift away to the left.
Oh, hey, so it worked.
Which
Saved him some time, probably.
Right. And this also left a gap in the front, but this gap was filled seamlessly by the division coming up from his rear. He was like, no, you guys. No, whatever. Let's go. Under Major General Patrick Claiborne, these two divisions swept all resistance aside. Several artillery batteries were captured without having time to fire a single shot.
Jeez.
Johnson's division on the right suffered about over 50% casualties. His neighboring Union division to the left, under Brigadier General Jefferson C. Davis, was able to hold only briefly. Wow, that's gotta suck.
Right. Although meeting stiff resistance, Hardy drove the Union troops back 3 miles to the railroad and the Nashville Pike by 10 a.m., where Johnson was able to rally them. Rosecrans canceled Crittenden's. Of course, why? No use of attacking now. You got to defend.
Right.
Rosecrans canceled Crittenden's attack on the Confederate right, which had begun with Brigadier General Horatio Van Cleve's division crossing the river at 7. Well, so they were already in the middle of it.
Okay,
and instead rushed reinforcements to his own right flank. He had been slow to recognize the threat, assuming incorrectly that McCook would be capable of turning back Hardy's assault.
Well, he was wrong.
As Rosecrans raced across the battlefield, directing units seeming ubiquitous to his men, his uniform was covered with blood from his friend and chief of staff, Colonel Julius Garache, who was beheaded by a cannonball while riding alongside.
Shit.
Dude, you imagine that? He's just riding along, looking at him, and his head just...
Boom.
Oh, my.
He's just sitting on his horse, and it falls over.
Falls right over, right? Oh, my goodness.
Wow. The second Confederate wave was by Polk's Corps, consisting of divisions Major General Jones Withers and Benjamin Cheatham.
Withers.
What saved the Union from total destruction that morning was the foresight of Brigadier General Philip Sheridan on McCook's right. Nope, it was in McCook's wing, who anticipated an early attack and had the troops of his division up and
look
ready.
At Sheridan. He was like, you know they're going to do what they did in the other place.
Right. And this
Perryville, or what the hell was it? Fort Donelson and Shiloh.
Fort Donelson and Shiloh. He had his men ready in the center of the right half of the line by 4 a.m.
Damn.
Dang.
See?
Withers hit Sheridan's right flank first, and then Davis's left, but was repulsed in 3 separate charges.
For them.
Then Cheatham, with his reserve division, hit Sheridan's front as Claiborne struck his flank.
Uh-oh. Well, Cheatham's assault was sluggish and piecemeal. Observers claimed he had been drinking heavily and was unable to command his units effectively. Dude, it's 4 a.m. in the morning, 7 a.m., whatever.
Especially when he knew they were attacking at dawn.
Right. Well, Sheridan's men slowed the enemy advance. They did it at a heavy cost to themselves. All 3 of Sheridan's brigade commanders were killed that day.
Oh, jeez.
And more than 1/3 of his men were casualties in 4 hours of fighting in a cedar forest surrounded on 3 sides that became known as the Slaughter Pen.
Oh, no.
Bad. They were just right there.
Right.
By 10 a.m., many of the Confederate objectives had been achieved. They had captured 28 guns and over 3,000 Union soldiers.
Holy shit, dude. That went bad.
That's just the first day, guys.
Two Confederate
We got
blunders.
two more days of this.
Two Confederate blunders aided Rosecrans, though. Breckinridge, on the east side of the river, did not realize that Crittenden's early morning attack had been withdrawn. He refused to send 2 brigades as reinforcements across the river to aid the main attack on the left. He was like, no, we got to stay here. They're coming. When Bragg ordered him to attack to his front so that some use could be made of his corps, Breckinridge moved forward and was embarrassed to find out that there were no Union troops opposing him. He was like,
I bet he was, dude.
nothing here. He's like, oh, shit.
I hear about this.
At about that time, Bragg received a false report that a strong Union force was moving south along the Lebanon Turnpike in his direction. He canceled his orders that Breckinridge send reinforcements across the river, which diluted the effectiveness of the main attack. That's so stupid.
That's crazy.
I don't understand.
You know, the Union sending in, like, civilians pretty much acting as Confederate sympathizers. But, dude, there's a big-ass group coming towards you.
Right.
And he took the bait. Nice.
And he's like,
right. By 11, they put the gum in there. By 11, ain't tobacco. By 11 a.m., Sheridan's ammunition ran low, and his division pulled back, which opened up a gap that Hardee exploited.
also got Union ammo running low. We haven't seen this before.
The Union troops regrouped, well, because they stole all their supplies, remember? The Union troops regrouped and held the Nashville Pike, supported by reinforcements and massed artillery. Repeated attacks on the left flank of the Union line were repulsed by Colonel William B. Hazen's brigade in a rocky 4-acre wooded area named the Round Forest.
Okay.
It became known as Hell's Half Acre, though, after this. Brigadier General Milo Haskell sent the 3rd Kentucky to the Round Forest as reinforcements. When he was informed that the 3rd regimental commander was dead, he decided to take personal command of the defensive position.
And someone's got to.
He declared that it had to be held, even if it cost the last man we had. Hazen's brigade was the only part of the original Union line to hold. The Union line was stabilized by the strong leadership of Rosecrans and by the rallying of the divisions under Johnson and Davis. The new line was roughly perpendicular to the original one, and a small half elbow with its back to the river.
Oh, shit.
Back to the river? That's not good.
Right. General Bragg planned to attack the Union left, a portion of the oval line facing southeast, manned by Hazen's brigade. The only troops available for such an assault were Breckinridge's, and Bragg ordered him to cross that river, but Breckinridge moved slowly. By 4 p.m., Breckinridge's first 2 brigades assaulted Hazen in piecemeal attacks and suffered heavy repulses. 2 more brigades arrived, and they were sent in, reinforced by other elements of Polk's corps. The attack failed a second time. Thomas responded with a limited counterattack that cleared his front. By 4:30 p.m., the battle was over.
Bragg's plan had a fundamental flaw, although his objective was to cut Rosecrans' line of communication, which was the Nashville Pike. His attack drove the Union defenders to concentrate at that point.
All right.
Bragg's biographer Grady McWhiney observed, unless the Union Army collapsed at the first onslaught, it would be pushed back into a tighter and stronger defensive position as the battle continued, while the Confederate forces would gradually lose momentum, become disorganized, and grow weaker. Like a snowball, the Union would pick up strength from the debris of the battle if they retreated in good order.
All right.
Right, because they're going to all group together, right?
They have nowhere place to go. But the Confederates would inevitably unwind like a ball of string as they advanced.
Yeah, it was still McWhiney.
Right. That night, Rosecrans had a council of war to decide what to do. Some of his generals felt that the Union Army had been defeated and recommended a retreat before they were entirely cut off.
Pussies.
Rosecrans opposed this view and was strongly supported by Thomas and Crittenden. Thomas has been quoted by different sources in the council meeting as saying either this army does not retreat or there's no better place to die. I'm pretty sure he said this army does not retreat.
Or there's no better place to die. You know, those people were back then.
Right. The decision was made to stand and fight. And as the Union line was reinforced, the morale of the soldiers rose.
Damn right.
He's like, this is why President Lincoln put me in charge.
Right. I said, yeah. Lincoln, you know what piss Lincoln would be if they retreated, dude? All right.
I really want to go.
Right. On the Confederate side, Bragg was certain that he had won a victory. Although he suffered 9,000 casualties, he was convinced that the large number of captured Union soldiers meant that Rosecrans had lost considerably more. The Confederate army began digging in, facing the Union line. Bragg sent a telegram to Richmond before he went to bed. He said, "The enemy has yielded his strong position and is falling back. We occupy the whole field and shall follow him. God has granted us a happy new year."
Really?
Not so fast, Bragg. You're bragging, Bragg.
Oh, man. 3 a.m., January 1st, 1863. Rosecrans revived his original plan and ordered McCleave's division, commanded by Colonel Samuel Beatty, following Van Cleve's wounding the previous day. He said, "You cross that river and occupy the heights there. protecting 2 river crossing sites and providing a good platform for artillery. The day was relatively quiet as both armies observed New Year's Day by resting and tending to their wounded. Polk launched 2 probes of the Union line, one against Thomas and the other against Sheridan, to little effect.
In the rear, Wheeler's cavalry continued to harass the Union line of communication on the turnpike back to Nashville. Convoys of wounded had to travel under heavy escort to be protected from the cavalry, and Wheeler interpreted these movements as preparations for a retreat, which he reported to Bragg. Buoyed by his sense that he had won the battle, Bragg was content to wait for Rosecrans to retreat.
No!
4 p.m., January 2nd, Bragg directed Breckinridge's troops to attack Beatty's division, which was occupying the hill on the east side of the river. Breckinridge initially protested that the assault would be suicidal, but eventually agreed and attacked with determination.
Right, I mean, once they're already up on there, I mean, we already know what the artillery does for the Union. Jeez, it destroys. The Union troops were pushed back across The Union troops were pushed back across McFadden Ford, but the Confederate charge ran into heavy fire from massed Union artillery across the river, commanded by Crittenden's artillery chief, Captain John Mendenhall. Mendenhall deployed his guns perfectly. 45 arrayed hub to hub on the ridge overlooking McFadden's Ford, and 12 more guns about a mile to the southwest, which could provide enfilading fire, completely commanding the opposite bank and heights beyond, and saved the day for Rosecrans. The Confederate attack stalled, having suffered 1,800 casualties in less than an hour.
Damn.
Dude, the artillery, I'm telling you, it's fucking nuts.
The Union division under the command of James Negley under Thomas's wing led a counterattack at 4:45 p.m., and the Confederate troops retreated. Breckinridge was devastated by the disaster. He lost nearly 1/3 of his Kentucky troops, which was Hanson's brigade, also known as the Orphan Brigade, because it could not return to Union-occupied Kentucky. All right. As he rode among the survivors, he cried out repeatedly, "My poor orphans! My poor orphans!"
Oh, wow.
Jeez.
On the morning of 3rd of January, a large supply train and reinforced infantry brigade led by Brigadier General James Spears reached Rosecrans just in time.
Just in time.
Wheeler's cavalry attempted to capture the ammo train that followed it, but was repulsed. Later that evening, Thomas attacked the center of the Confederate line with 2 regiments in reaction to the constant enemy sharpshooting against troops in his division under Lavelle Rousseau. Thomas drove the Confederates from their entrenchments, taking about 30 prisoners. Despite this action, the main battle was generally accepted to have ended on January 2nd.
Bragg now knew that Rosecrans was not likely to retreat and would continue to receive reinforcements, and the Confederates only had about 20,000 men ready to resume a battle, and intelligence reports convinced Bragg Rosecrans would soon have 70,000.
Which he probably did.
And he knew that the miserable weather of freezing rain could raise the river enough to split his army.
Right.
Beginning at 10 p.m. on January 3rd, he withdrew through Murfreesboro and began a retreat to Tullahoma, Tennessee, 36 miles to the south. Rosecrans occupied Murfreesboro on January 5th, but made no attempt to pursue Bragg. You got to be doing that. Rosecrans was quoted after the battle as saying, "Bragg's a good dog, but hold fast. Bragg's a good dog, but hold fast a better." Is that his dog or something? All right, comparing him to a dog. Awesome.
Right. Just as Perryville, Bragg seemed to change under stress from a bold and aggressive attacker to a hesitant and cautious retreater. He had, of course, sound reasons for withdrawing from Murfreesboro. His principal subordinates advised him to retreat. He had lost nearly 30% of his men in his recent battles. If forced to fight again without some rest, his army might disintegrate. But his decision to retreat allowed his enemies to charge that once again, Bragg had lost his knife.
Yeah, Bragg's not doing too hot, man.
Bragg's back for Grady McWhiney. McWhiney.
Total casualties in the battle were 25,645. 13,906 on the Union side and 11,739 for the Confederates, or 32.7% of all troops.
Crazy.
Considering that only about 78,400 men were engaged, this was the highest percentage of casualties, 3.8% killed, 19.8% wounded, and 7.9% missing or captured. It was the most of any major battle in the Civil War.
Oh, shit.
Higher in absolute numbers than the infamous bloodbaths at Shiloh and Antietam earlier that year.
Oh, shit.
4 brigadier generals were killed or mortally wounded.
Oh.
Confederates James E. Raines and Roger Hanson, and Union brigadier generals Edward Kirk and Joshua Sill. Also among the wounded was Union soldier Frances Elizabeth Quinn, one of many women who disguised themselves as men to fight in the war.
Oh, shit. Look at that. Wow. The battle was tactically inconclusive, however. Bragg received almost universal scorn from his Confederate military colleagues. Only the support of Joseph Johnston and President Davis's inability to find a suitable replacement saved his command.
Oh, look at him.
And even Johnston's like, he's good.
Right.
Let him stay, bud. The battle was very important to Union morale, as evidenced by Abraham Lincoln's letter to General Rosecrans. It says, "You gave us a hard-earned victory, which had there been a defeat instead, the nation could scarcely have lived over." Oh, man.
It's true.
Yeah. The Confederate threat to Kentucky and Middle Tennessee had been nullified, and Nashville was secure once again as a major Union supply base for the rest of the war.
Good for them. Look at that. Rosecrans spent 5.5 months reinforcing Murfreesboro. The massive earthenworks Fort Rosecrans was built there and served as a supply depot for the remainder of the war. The next major operation, which is the Tullahoma campaign, did not come until June, when Rosecrans finally moved to get his army against Bragg. Wow. Part of the site of the Battle of Stones River and Fort Rosecrans is now Stones River National Battlefield. Contains the Hazen Brigade Monument, the nation's oldest intact Civil War monument.
Oh, no shit.
Which was erected in May of 1863 during the war.
Damn.
Wow. By William Hazen's brigade at Hell's Half Acre. So they did it. Nice.
Wow.
Why? The 600-acre national battlefield includes Stones River National Cemetery, established in 1865, with more than 6,000 Union graves.
Wow.
American Battlefield Trust and its partners have acquired and preserved 74 acres, some of which has been sold to the National Park Service and incorporated into the National Battlefield.
All right. Whatever.
All right. There you have it.
Well,
that turned into something more than I thought it was going to be, to be honest with you.
If Breckinridge would have moved in and reinforced Bragg
at the beginning,
that would have been different Confederates. And if Rosecrans would have done more pushing,
and if they were ready,
right in the morning,
not got surprised again, they probably would have been way different earlier.
Could have been a different. And once they got that on that ridge and put that artillery up, I mean, just mow them down. It's just even the Confederate general was like, "Dude, we're gonna get mowed down, but let's do it. I guess.
Let's do it anyways."
Let's do it. Right.
How to wrap up the year of 1862 with the Union in firm control, pretty much.
Fine.
If you want to say that. At the end of 1862, we had the United States winning 57 battles and losing 33 of them.
Wow, 19 ties.
19 ties. U.S. won 10 A battles to the Confederates 4, 13 B battles to the Confederates 11. They tied with 10 C battles apiece. 12 D battles the Union won against the Confederates 4.
Wow.
And battles that weren't ranked under the rankings. Union won 12 to the Confederates 4.
Wow.
Overall, we got the United States winning 77 and losing 57 so far for the war. So
either way, those ties could have went either way, and it could be a tie game or a blowout.
Pretty much. 26 overall ties. Yeah. It could be like literally tied all together.
Or a blowout.
Or, 100 to 57. Yep. That's where we stand right now, and it don't get any better for the Union in 1863 because they get... the Confederates, because they talk about blowout, they get blown out in 1863 for sure.
Yeah, it's rough. Damn, they get 19 ties again?
Yeah, they got a lot of ties. Inconclusives. That's going to do it for us. And the year of 1862, moving on to 1863, we'll start off with the Battle of Galveston, January 1st in Texas, and then the Second Battle of Springfield in Missouri, and the Battle of Arkansas Post in Arkansas.
Well, the Confederates have a good first couple months.
Yeah.
February was bad. I mean, January.
Not much going on, really. So you get down here.
Oh, and then Union's like, hold on, we got a winning streak.
Yeah, I think our first major battle, don't come until the Battle of Chancellorsville in April and the beginning of May, and that's a Confederate victory. So
they probably needed the morale.
Right. We got a lot of A's in this.
Dude, Union wins like 3 A battles in a row after that. And B battles. They're all basically A battles.
Pretty much.
I don't care. B is an A. I always said that when I was in school. B is an A.
Siege of Vicksburg, I would say. Well, no, I can't say that. I was going to say it's the biggest battle of this year, but we know what the biggest battle of this year is.
Yeah, baby.
It's coming on.
There's actually the month before and the month after of that battle is just nothing but badass battles, dude.
Oh, Gettysburg, July 1st and to the 3rd.
But Cabin Creek.
It's in Oklahoma.
Oh, wait, no.
But you do have the Hanover, Sporting Hill, Carlisle, all in Pennsylvania.
Right.
And then afterwards, you got Hunterstown and Fairfield
Right.
in Pennsylvania.
Some good shit.
It's all on the last day of the war or the battle. Yeah. Obviously, Gettysburg's the big battle of this year, but we also do have the Siege of Vicksburg, which is equally important, I would say. Actually, maybe even more important strategy-wise.
Yeah, but they needed Vicksburg. Union did. And South, I guess.
Yeah, well, South don't get it. They don't get it. They ain't going to rise again here. That's going to do it for us. We'll have those 3 battles coming up next week. Go check out patreon.com/bangdang for this show, plus Outlaws and Gunslingers and Sports History, ad-free and early, $2 a month. Patreon.com/bangdang. Manscaped.com, I think, still. Go get 20% off plus free shipping. Use code True Crime. And, go check out Outlaws and Gunslingers and This Week in Sports History. We'll be back for more battles of the American Civil War. We are the Monthly Michiganders with
Bang Dang.